Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, Ernest, good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Tom. Welcome. So thank you for joining us on Zoom today. We're going to try and do this. Tom wanted to see our faces, and I thought we were going to do some possible language work, so it might be easier to do it on Zoom anyway. So we will give this a try. The challenge I think I left you with last week was, there's Ernest and I have been talking about this idea of datocracy. You've been writing about it for a long time, Tom, and I've been struggling to figure out what exactly is datocracy. What is the thing that is the common vision and values and requirements, if you will, versus our own idiosyncratic, diverse viewpoints. And the question was, can Planguage help with that? And so I thought maybe you can kind of give us a quick summary of Planguage, and then we could try to actually work through an exercise of seeing if we can use that to help us define datocracy requirements. Does that make sense? You're muted still, Tom.
There we go. Yeah. Yep, I can do that.
All right.
Did you want me to start now?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. So the essential idea is that let's call them people for the moment. They have a set of values. And I've been reading some of your stuff, Ernest, and I know that your ideas appreciate sets of values. And we've been talking a little bit about that. One of the values we talked about in our side conversation was trust, for example. So long story short, it's important that people have a way of expressing their values which are intelligible to other entities, for example, computers, and for example, other people. And just saying we need more trust isn't very helpful, but that's the kind of thing people do all the time. For example, United Nations in its sustainability goals largely stops at euphemisms like, reduce poverty, reduce hunger, increase education, and they don't really go into any more depth there. I've written a freely available publication called Sustainability Planning in detail on that. You can give to anybody. Now, my belief is we have to find a more precise way of stating our values so that these values can be translated into political action. For example, allocation of funds or accepting laws or something like that. And so Planguage has that as a primary idea, that nice sounding, soft, qualitative words and terms such as trust and transparency and respect can be translated into something absolutely unambiguously clear to both any human being and any computer. And to simplify a lot, but I've written a lot in detail about it, I believe you need to quantify these ideas. You need to define a scale of measure. Okay, so if I talk about speed and somebody says define a scale of measure, we might say, well, what about miles per hour? Okay, and then we can talk about how fast, say, a car is, 100 miles per hour, 200 miles per hour. So I believe we need to go through that process for these human values, all of them, without any exception. Now, I believe a computer can help us do it. In fact, that's easily provable, but people need to learn much better how to quantify, and not just quantify, because quantification is only part of making things clear. We need to do more than just quantify. For example, when defining something like trust, we need to include the ideas of with whom, for what, when, under which conditions. And I call these things conditions. Okay, so we need to both define conditions for which we have these values, and we need to define how much of the value we need. That's the quantitative part, okay? And then if we define the conditions very clearly, and I have methods in Planguage for doing it, the technical word is scale qualifiers. So I'll have a scale qualifier that says people, and I will define different people types such as children, elderly, teenagers, and stuff like that, okay? And those will be our conditions. So Planguage has built in these devices, and they're free, and the language is free, the ideas are free. So Planguage has these ideas built in for making human values extremely clear, so clear that a computer can take that and say, aha, your value tells me you would vote yes on that proposition, okay? And by the way, you've empowered me to do it for you. This is Datocracy now. Mm-hmm. You've empowered me to just vote for you, but you've also said that if more than $1 billion is going to be spent, you would like to manually look at my decision and okay it or not. Okay. In other words, the computer will make a lot of decisions for us based on our values, as long as we're happy with it, but it also will allow us into the conversation to override its decisions and maybe to learn from our override that it, in a sort of an artificial intelligence thing, that it needs to be smarter in making decisions on our behalf. But the basis, and I'll stop here in a moment, the basis is that our values are extremely clearly specified, and that's what Planguage does.
Okay, thank you. So let me just kind of repeat that back. So we assume that we have some sort of vague list of values in our heads that we're already able to express using kind of English words. And then Planguage is kind of a schema that says this is how you refine those into very concrete things, concrete statements. I think you use the term conditions and quantities associated with each of those values so that people can make sort of algorithmic decisions.
Yep, you
and
got
then
it.
Embedded
Perfect.
in a system which allows contextualization and revocation and things like that.
Yep, that's perfect rendition. I've been doing this for about 60 years, all over the world for all kinds of things. So it's not like I just got a new idea and I think it's cool. Okay, I've been doing this in major corporations. I like to cite my friends at Intel that have trained over 20,000 engineers for a 20-year period to use this language to define Intel's hottest products. Okay, so the Intel is very conscious of the fact that they need to be very precise in what they're building to be competitive and to make sure that the architecture of the chips gets done right and all that kind of stuff. So they have found this language about over 20 years ago, and it has become the de facto language for describing the values or qualities of their products. And that's just one instance, but it's a good one.
Right, so this is the first question I said, okay, I can see how this makes an enormous amount of sense for large organizations dealing with complex, primarily mechanical systems.
Okay.
The interesting question for me then, can this work for a small group of people dealing with social systems, specifically the three of us with this idea of datocracy?
Yeah, and the answer is yes, and we've done it. Now, let me go down to the very smallest scale, and then we go up to a larger one, the three of us. But Ernest, I sent you a book during our conversations, Life Design, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is how an individual, like any one of us, can use this method to plan their personal and professional life, because each individual has values, like I want to be happy, I want my family to be happy, I want a nice job that I thrive in, right? Those are the values. But this book describes exactly how real people have really done this, gives case studies to choose their professional path and their personal paths. So, so the answer is it works on a scale of one domain, like family life. Okay. When my kids were very much younger, and one of my sons is actually listening right now, just say hi, Pierre. He's very interested in this. So when one of my kids were smaller, we had 4 boys, all very strong-minded, and they knew exactly what they wanted, and then 2 parents. And we planned our family vacations using this method and got, if you like, a golden compromise. It wasn't perfect for anyone, but
Tom,
everybody agreed with the.
I got to hear your son weigh in. If he's going to listen in on this and you're going to make a claim, I want to hear his anecdote of how it worked for him.
Okay, I think I'd prefer not to do that without preparation.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Among other things, the story I'm telling is now ancient in the sense that it was 30 years ago, right? The family, when the kids are all in their 50s now, right? But well, one of my sons lives and breathes this in a daily basis. He's Kai Gilb at Gilb.com. And so he made it his profession and worked with me for 30 years. So if you want to interview a son with the past things, I suggest we talk with Kai, because he's made it his life. Whereas my other sons haven't made the planning method their life. So it'd be inappropriate to, yeah.
Oh, come on. That's the juicy story I want to hear. It's not just when it works really well, but the edge cases when people have tried it and don't use it for various reasons. That's actually, okay, but we'll save that for a separate conversation.
No, that's a fair question, and I accept it. But I didn't say we trained our sons to do the planning. I said my wife and I did the planning with some cooperation from the sons, but we didn't set out to train them to run their life this way. One of 4 sons, which is a pretty good odds, decided to make it his entire life. And he's Kai, and you'll find him at Gilb.com. So that's, I think we'll look at the one who did it. The others went off into different directions, you know, like Pierre is happiest when he's tending his bees and plants at our summer cabin. Okay. But he's also interested in Datocracy, which is why he showed up suddenly. He wants to follow this.
Yeah. So, okay. So this is good. And I think I think it occurs to me that not every mindset is congruent with thinking in these terms about everything, right? And so I can imagine that, but it seems like it's, if nothing else, it's a great exercise. So I have questions about like what context, but that's, I guess, I think given that, let me propose a concrete action. So I have this Coherency Manifesto that Ernest and I and our friend Anish worked on, which is a statement in English terms with some level of definition. And would it be reasonable to try and like go through that and pick 1 or 2 phrases and try to format them along Planguage terms to see how that helps?
Yes, it would.
All right, let me go ahead and do that. I will share my screen here. And throw the link in the Zoom chat if anybody wants.
Goody. My scan in 3 seconds tells me there's plenty of meat there. We can have fun with this.
Good.
No
And
problem.
This may be, and it's already in a Google Doc, so we can.
So I can quantify better decisions, higher quality data, adapting to new realities, immutable public histories, transparency, all your bold stuff.
Okay, good. So let's pick one.
I'll go as far as saying you pick one that you think would be difficult, and I'll tell you how to do it.
I guess better decision seems like a fun one to start with.
Okay, fine. Now, actually, in an ideal world, I would be able to key something on a keyboard.
Yeah, I sent you the link if you want to try and edit it.
I don't need it. I just need something to write on that we can share.
That's what I mean. This is a Google Doc. You
Like
can
one of
edit it.
my notes or something like that. Is that a possibility?
So can you use Google Docs?
Can I just use my notes in my screen?
Oh, you want to just do it locally on your own screen?
Yeah, that's the simple. I don't want to. I mean, I've got. Yeah, I would like to use a simple note.
Okay, so we're going to
if
share your screen.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And let's see, we're still there. Let's see, in Zoom. Okay, and now I need to screen share. And there's my notes.
Oh, hold on, we're not seeing it yet.
No, you're not seeing it yet.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Now you should be able to see it. Okay.
Right.
Right. So better decisions.
Actually, more precisely, better decisions together is the kind of the virtue.
That's fine. Excellent.
Yeah.
The merrier. Okay. Now, can you see this thing here?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll just. No problem. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do first is put a colon. What I have here is what I call a tag. It is simply the name of this idea that we're going to detail. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Very familiar with programming languages, things like that. Now, I'm going to write. That's also a Planguage device to have a tag which is stable no matter how much you change and edit that which is below. And the same thing in programming languages, of course. Now, the next little Planguage statement. Oh, by the way, the first thing we actually do is we declare the type, and let's call it top objective for. And what was the name of the?
Let's just say for Datocracy or.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll call it Datocracy, but we can Datocracy. Okay, fine. So I've declared its type, that it's an objective, it's a top level objective, and it's for Datocracy, right? Now, the next thing I do is intentionally informal. It's the ambition level. In fact, I often shorten it to ambition, but as we're beginners, we'll put level. Now, I want you to dictate to me a sentence, probably no more than about 10 words, of what is your ambition level about better decisions together. And I'm going to key it in. So say it slowly.
So like, sorry, the ambition and there's many different directions I could go with this. Ernest, do you want to
pick one arbitrarily for the exercise?
Okay. Just that we optimizing outcomes for the entire group rather than preferencing certain individuals.
Okay. Optimizing outcomes for the entire group rather than, and give me more words here.
Preferencing certain individuals.
Right. Just a moment.
Preferencing.
Preferencing, yeah, I missed the P there. Preferencing certain individuals. Okay, put a full stop. Now, by the way, I'm going to source credit this with a little arrow, which in Planguage is a keyed icon, and it means source is. So I'll just put EP, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Then I know where I got it from, and you have to acknowledge you said it.
Yeah.
You have to take. It says to take ownership. We could even, put a date on it or something like that symbolically that you said it then. Okay. Now, take a look at it. Do you want to edit it before we go on in any way?
So I'm trying to think is that there's it occurs to me that there's kind of both the intrinsic and extrinsic definition of better, and this is kind of the intrinsic one, like the group. Arguably, the harder one is making what's the word? The one that'll have the best long-term consequences, I guess, is the
Okay.
or the most
Let me try this.
robust. So I guess the idea is that let me free will kind of free associate a bit first before I say something precise. But the
It's
idea
easy to
is,
edit.
yeah, the idea is that when I make a decision by myself, I tend to make it based on a very narrow context of what I know and what I expect will happen in the future. And the idea of making better decisions together is that by pooling our wisdom, we can come up with a more robust strategy than.
Okay. By the way, you're going too far down the road because I now hear you discussing the strategies for reaching the objective, and that is an invalid act in Planguage. You have to first have a clear objective, and then you have to agree it is your objective, and then we can look at strategies or architecture and decide if they're good enough for the clear objective. So long story short, let's focus on the objective. Yeah, I got something I like here. Optimizing outcomes in terms of the outcomes are in terms of long-term consequences for the entire group rather than preferencing certain individuals. So I'm happy with that. But if you'd like to edit it anymore, put in some more words. The more the merrier.
Okay, can I ask Ernest to help, or does that dilute the process?
No, that's good.
Ernest, what do you think about this? How do you feel about that?
I'll have to blame him too.
Okay.
So
I would like to add that the decision makers should have the same facts, the same underlying data, so that the only variation is their values and the knowledge that they have in their heads, but there should be the same set of actual facts used in the decision. They have, all of them have to consider the same facts.
We can just call that a common set of facts.
Yeah, common, correct. Yes.
Okay, so I wrote that up based on a consistent set of facts for decision makers. Are you happy with that, Ernest?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I prefer the phrase just saying based on a common set of facts across everyone, so that both the evaluators.
You better get Ernest to agree with you.
Are you okay with that, Ernest?
Well, is consistent the same as common?
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do consistent / common, and we're not going to worry about it for the moment. We'll indicate there is a discussion to be had about which term to use. But I'm going to end up defining these terms, so I can do that later, and we can decide on which term we prefer, or if we need both. Okay.
Ernest, now, do you feel strongly that you want to focus on it for decision makers, or is it just common set of facts, period, sufficient?
Yeah, for our purposes, you can answer, but for our purposes, it doesn't matter. We'll just run with what we have for the exercise.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess the sentence doesn't say how many people make the decision, so
that doesn't matter. We can get back to that.
Right. So
we can get back to that. Okay.
Yeah. So
okay. Here we have a typical sentence you'll find in the United Nations Sustainability Planning and all other plans. What it is, it's a series of nice sounding words and well-intended words. And one obvious problem, if you think about it, and I'm sure you've seen it, is that practically every word is ambiguous and has several possible definitions, right? So even if you two and I said, we agree on this ambition level, the only thing we've agreed on is our personal interpretation, and we don't know what the other guy's interpretation is. So in fact, we've agreed on nothing. It's like a peace agreement where, we all agree to be peaceful. Sign here, with the Nazis or somebody like that. Okay, so we need to, now there's nothing wrong with it. This stuff does occur. Politicians and people in high places and people trying to provoke change will make statements like this. And what I do, I've long since decided not to give them hell, Harry, and say, you guys are not capable of writing a clear idea. That's my personal opinion, but I keep it to myself. I say, thank you. Yeah, I even say, what kind of university did you go to that couldn't teach you better articulation of complex ideas? Must have had poor professors and poor universities. And some of them even went to Caltech and places like that. So So what I do is I politely and diplomatically say, thank you for your vision. And would you like to make sure that nobody misunderstands your vision and you get your vision? And what are they going to say? Like, no, I want everybody to misunderstand and I don't want to get it, right? So, so that's sort of called begging the question. They say, okay, if you'll allow me to help you, and you can make your mind up afterwards if you like it, I will show you how to make this unambiguously clear using Planguage. We're using Planguage. The first three things there are Planguage, but we haven't quite defined anything yet, right? So the next step is called scale of measure. Okay, so this is where we're going to hit the scale. And I'll give a little sketch so you say where we're going. I'll put down a thing called a goal. So for example, if I had a scale of measure for a car, miles per hour, and I said the goal is 600 miles per hour, right? So scale, miles per hour, goal 600, right? That's the structure we're looking at. And so the scale, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leverage your vision, you guys. I'm not going to throw it away, but I'm going to begin structuring it and defining it. So a simple cut and paste. Well, almost. Okay. Now, if okay. Now, I'm just going to write definitions so that you're sure what I'm doing. Okay. I need to define optimizing, right? Because it could mean many things, right? Now, by the way, I'm going to define outcomes right away. By the way, there's a little tradition, simple tradition in Planguage. If you've defined a word, you write it with a capital letter to signify that a definition will be found at some place. Don't guess at the meaning. So I'll put the O's in capitals just to remind you of that. But okay, now outcomes are numeric results in terms of a set of long-term, we'll call them human values. Now, I just drafted something, but I'm going to ask you, I put in human values on my own volition. I didn't put the word consequences because I felt the word result did it well enough. I did put in numeric because I don't want another set of words that nobody understands. I want some numbers that I can believe in and trust or test. Okay. So how do you like, my question is, I've taken the word outcomes. I've looked at your in terms of long-term consequences, and I have defined it. Now, do you agree, at least roughly for the purpose of our example, like this is a pretty good definition? We might be able to tweak it later. Or would you like to tweak it now? Yeah, sorry, Ernie, you were.
Yeah, I was saying, yeah, I certainly think it's a very interesting refinement. It's not quite the same thing, but it's probably a more useful thing. So I'm very interested in see the direction it goes.
Okay, yeah, right. Again, what we don't have to quibble about the exact words because we can have that quibble for the rest of the time. You know, we can say we want to redefine our outcomes word. We've got more insight. That's okay. But right now, what I'm just saying is that word outcomes needs more definition, because if I asked you to, if I wrote this down blind, you couldn't see it, and then I asked you to write your own version, we would have 3 versions guaranteed. Okay. What we've got now, since it's in writing, and we have a process called, we need to agree on this. We cannot proceed if we can't agree on the meaning of the word outcomes. Okay, so because you got to, it's a non-starter. So that's part of Planguage. You got to agree to go by the rule that if it's defined, and if you don't have a better idea, or if your argument's been outvoted, that's the one you have to live with. You know, we have to live with like dictionary definitions of words. I can't define man as woman just arbitrarily because I want to, I confuse people. Okay. Now, optimizing. Ernie, I'd like you to think about the meaning of the word optimizing, but Ernest, I'd like you to tell me your definition of the word optimizing. Give me a, 10 words or less definition.
Optimizing is to narrow, to change the performance of something into an acceptable level. What is acceptable? It depends on what the thing is, but yeah, let's do those words. To change the performance of something into an acceptable
level. Okay. So when I have the word I'm defining, I just like, a matter of style, to put it in bold, and whereas the definition itself, this is like my typography I like, but it's a matter of taste. Okay. If it's in bold and underlined, it's like, here is the definition. Okay. When we're using digital systems, these words become links in color, but that's another detail. Okay, now, just for fun, Ernie, what was your definition of optimizing?
So
was
it
it
was something
exactly like this?
It was close. I mean, the two differences that I would think of is, one is, I would say, improve the performance. And it would be—
Stop a moment. Ernest, how do you feel about that word improve?
It's to me, it's a little ambiguous, because improving what, I know it's a positive word. It's like, yeah, to make better. So let me see what does it change.
Now, what I'm going to do, I have a little thing in Planguage, which is seems trivial, but it's very useful. You see this little thing here? It's a bracket. It's okay.
Yeah.
These two things here are called fuzzy brackets. And every time we have something that needs resolution, but we don't want to spend an hour doing it right now, we put it in fuzzy brackets as a reminder that it is not resolved, and we cannot move on seriously without it getting resolved. Okay. So, and I could have gone through this entire scale, the entire ambition level, and done that. But okay, so I'm going to put change, improve in square brackets and fuzzy brackets, and just to teach you that device.
Yeah.
For
that's
getting
clever. No, that is powerful. I love that. Yeah, it's the other thing I would add is within, to me, optimizing conveys the idea within a set of constraints.
Okay, now I'm going to write within a set of constraints. Okay. Now, how do you feel about that, Ernest? Would do you say acceptable, or I put it in another place, or I don't like it, or?
I think, well,
this is to me the
level to me sounds very similar to within a set of constraints.
So let me express what I mean by that, because to me, when I think of optimizing, I think I have,
Oh, sorry, I did something wrong here. I put it in the wrong place, didn't I? Should this, is this, are we defining outcomes here with this?
No, I'm talking about optimizing.
Oh, sorry, you are.
Yeah,
right, okay,
what
fine.
I meant was
So
that, so let me give you an idea what I think about optimizing. I say, okay, I have, 5 people, 3 months, and, $12,000. Given those constraints, what is the best product I can do?
But,
that's
by the way,
optimizing.
I understand
why you want it trade-offs.
Yeah, I understand why you want it there, and it's but I'm not concerned with that. I'm concerned that you and Ernest agree on the definition.
Right, that's what I was just trying to explain to Ernest. why I wanted to include that in that definition. That's
Okay,
what I meant
you're
by
trying
my
to talk him into
optimizing.
agreeing with your definition.
As
Yeah,
opposed to
that's
merely
okay. That's valid.
maximizing, it's optimizing. That's for me, that's why I put that in that there.
Yes, maximizing is, it's not optimizing. So when it comes to, like, for example, well, what the market does, right? The market optimizes prices depending on demand and supply.
Right.
It's not maximizing supply or maximizing.
By the way, we risk getting a little bit too much discussion for our timing here.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we had a whole day, which we often have for this kind of thing, then that's very valid and necessary. What I would do if I discover that two or more people that have to agree don't agree, I say, you go into the jury room and you come out with an agreed sentence, and you don't come out to eat or do anything until you've agreed. Because otherwise we can't. So that's so we acknowledge that a process of agreement has to take place, because you can't walk out with a guilty and not guilty sentence for the same man. By the way, a trivial difference when you said it, Ernie, I thought, here's the sentence: you shall hang by the neck until dead. Now, I forgot the word not, and that's a trivial difference. Okay. So in other words, the smallest difference can be radically change how everything works here. So we cannot tolerate even trivial differences. We have to have an exact thing that we at least agree to, even though we have some reservations that nobody agrees to with us. So there's a process of agreeing at some level. If you like, it could be we vote on it or the boss decides, but we can't have this. Everybody has a different opinion and they're going to stick to it. We go nowhere with that. And that's what we actually have in the ambition level, right? Okay, let me go on here to make some more progress here. Okay, in terms of long-term consequences for the entire group. Now, I'm going to put, I have a thing I call scale qualifiers. And it's simply, I take a term like entire group and I put it in square brackets. And this is now a scale qualifier. I'll write that down there. It's a technical term I use, scale qualifier. And it's in the scale, so we know why it's called scale something. And qualifier, it's like an adjective of some kind, qualifies it, okay? Now, I'm gonna, okay, so I'm gonna take this entire group and copy it, and I'm gonna define it, but I'm gonna define it in a special way. Now, let's talk about some groups that of interest, like a family could be a group, just to give you a starter, but name one or more groups in a set of entire groups.
So it could be a nation, could be a company.
Oh, right, okay. I'm gonna write them down: nation, company, keep on going.
Family.
Partnership.
Pardon?
A partnership.
Partnership, right.
Yeah.
Okay, now to save time, we see where this is going. Yeah. Just getting some air into the
Define it
room.
by example.
Okay. Well, here, no, ... means we know that there are lots more things here, but we don't want to spend an hour figuring them all out right now. So it means we started the definition process. We have a certain set. We may even have agreement that these four things belong in that set, and we can move on. Okay. Now, okay. Now, let's take the word preferencing and define preferencing.
Is that to me?
Oh,
Anybody?
it's giving priority to.
Giving power to. Yeah.
Priority.
Yeah. Good enough for a
Priority.
moment. And how are you, Ernie?
You use the word priority.
Oh,
I didn't catch that. Could you try again?
Ernie, I couldn't hear you for whatever reason.
Oh.
Looks like your microphone's on.
Can you hear me?
I'm not sure I understand.
We got,
Your Siri or somebody is intercepting our audio.
yeah, that's right. Siri was intercepting. I can hear you now anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Preferencing, not power, but priority, not power, priority.
Okay, good. Notice the priority is different from power.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. How do you feel about priority instead of power, Ernie?
That's what he was saying in the first place.
Oh, okay. Did I mishear you? Did you actually say priority, not power?
Yeah.
Yes.
I apologize. This happens over the internet. Okay, I'm old man. I don't have my hearing aids on. Okay, but that's one reason we write it down. Because if you are dependent on the oral, and I thought I heard power, and I walk out of the room with that, I've got a misunderstanding of what you actually said. The moment I write it down and said, I didn't say that, I said priority, we fix it right away. Okay, so I don't, Planguage has a very strong belief in the written word beats the oral word for specifications and planning. Very strong. You must write it down. And then the second is you must ultimately agree or opt out. You can't just go with different definitions here. Okay, now to what we do is we continue this process, and I've done preferencing. Okay, and I'll just do something like that. Okay, now I would do this with, I'm going to put the rest in fuzzy brackets.
Sure.
I'm going to indicate my agenda. I need to deal with the based on the common set of facts for sure. And I need to deal with decision makers, which is a set, okay. But I'm not going to do them just now. But I, if we had more time, we do them in the same way I'm showing. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, but let me show you what I do with this stuff. That's the important thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, see now, a goal is a place on that scale of measure that I want to be in the future. Right? Simple
Sorry,
idea.
do we have a scale of measure yet? I wasn't quite clear.
Yes, we have a scale of measure here where some of the terms are defined here, right? But we have a scale of measure and some of the terms are defined. The ones that are in fuzzy brackets are not yet defined, so it is an incompletely defined scale of measure. But only for timing reasons, I'm saying I don't want to do it now because I think you'll get the idea of how we do that if I push on.
All right. I'm sure I understand
okay.
what's going on. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is a pseudo complete scale of measure. If we had time, we'd do these things in square brackets in this manner down here. We'd define them. And then when we've done that, we would have a complete and well-defined scale of measure. This is one of the key ideas that I've invented actually in Planguage is scales of measure with defined terms and with scale qualifiers, as in this case. Okay. So, but let me skip over that. I mean, if we got time at some point, we'll go back and do it. There's no problem. There's just a time. I'd rather move on and show you where we're going.
Absolutely. So yeah. I think getting the whole picture is critical.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to, okay, scale of measure. Now, okay. Now, a scale has to have some units of measure, right? And this scale has no units of measure.
Right.
So I'm going to sneak one in, which almost always gets you started and works. And I write a percentage there. Now I've got myself some units. So the percentage of, optimizing, incomes, etc. Okay. So the goal, now I'm just going to put in an arbitrary percentage. I use the number 42 is my favorite arbitrary number because it is the answer to everything in the universe, right? Okay. So I'm going to go for a goal 42%. Now,
Okay, so sorry, I think you lost me in that percentage trick there.
Yeah.
If we could just take a step back.
right.
So
Okay.
is that something like the percentage of decisions that we make that are
It's
done
the-
this way?
Yeah, right. It's the percentage of this stuff.
Well, I guess I'm not clear what the denominator and numerator are for the percentage. That was what confused me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, we might have to go up there and work on it.
But let me just
And-
as a possible interpretation
Yeah,
is that
Okay.
let's assume
so
that we
let's
have
let's just say we had 100 instances we looked at
Mhm.
of optimizing income in terms of long-term consequences. Let's end the sentence there. And 42 of them did optimize the outcomes in terms of long-term consequences.
Okay, so
Then we've reached our goal of 42%.
right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So so let's just to wrap my head around it. There's the numerator is the denominator is something like decisions we made, and the numerator is the percent that actually achieved this goal of optimizing the long term.
Correct.
Okay. Right.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And that, of course, that might even become a bit more clearer if we spend another half an hour working on the scale and defining it, etc. But I wanted to jump ahead and give you a better feel for where we're going with all this stuff, and that's what I can do now.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, now with that caveat, I'm good.
Okay, good. So I'm going to put a straw man in here. You know, that the goal is 42%. Okay, let's just say we knew that up to now we've only achieved a maximum of 10%. Then a goal of 42% would be a great leap forward, to quote Chairman Mayo here, right?
Right.
Okay, now I'm going to put an arbitrary future time, like the year 2030, which I think the UN uses for a lot of its stuff and for climate change, Paris agreements.
Can I actually do something practical here? Because this would actually help me.
Sure.
Is that like,
Sure.
given where I'm at now, like the fact of like, given that vision, what I really want is like just to have a mechanism to define and track these numbers is actually, to me, far more important of a goal. Is more like something like that. The goal is that by 2030, that 100% of our decisions, we actually have a system for tracking the outcomes to even know whether or not they're optimal.
Okay, again,
That's a different, is that an acceptable way to
what
do it?
I've
or
got
is
to
that-
get back to is say whatever we end up finally defining here, remember it isn't complete, that's the answer. You're not allowed to have an opinion different from that as far as what the number means. The number means what the scale is defining. If I put in miles per hour, then 42 is 42 miles per hour. If I put in kilometers per hour, then my 42 means kilometers per hour. It
Right,
means
okay, so right. So I think the point is that in going through this process, I can say, well, actually, I would like, the way we framed it was misleading or confusing. I'd say, okay, so we will go with this for now.
yeah,
And your point is that it doesn't. We can use anything that has a well-defined numeric value.
yeah. That
And is it-
scale, put it this way, the number in the goal has to have a clear, unambiguous meaning, and that meaning is in the defined scale. And if that isn't true, you ain't done it right. You're not
Okay.
doing Planguage right.
And if you have it well-defined and it's unambiguous, then it's good. It doesn't matter what scope it is. It's whatever human beings are happy with. The other question
That's
is,
right.
is there always only one number per thing? Like, I can't say there's 3 different numbers, or do I have to like combine them somehow? Can I have multiple scales in
Okay,
a single ambition?
again, I didn't get a chance to get onto it, but I can have very many different numbers.
So that's just different results. Can I have different scales? Can I have multiple scales for a single ambition?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So I'll give you the yes, and I'll give you the no.
Okay.
Basically, there is one scale, but if you gave me a chance to do a little bit more of the goal, you'd realize that yes, there are multiple scales there. So let me do that first.
Okay.
Okay, we had an entire group equals family. And I'm going to go down here and write entire group is family and partners. And sometimes I'll put that in a little set parentheses to indicate it's a set, okay?
Mm.
So if you think about it, when I'm using different definitions of my scale qualifier, I, in a sense, have modified the scale.
Okay, but
Indirect.
I would call that a refinement rather than a different scale. But
Yes,
so
I
you're
would
saying that
too.
there should really only be one sort of abstract scale of measure, but we can specialize it into different kinds.
Absolutely correct. You got it. You have a high-level generic scale pattern, and by using different scale qualifier conditions, this is a scale qualifier condition family, you can have as many different points on that scale as you like. And in fact, what you're doing is multi-dimensional decomposition of the scale. Okay.
But I think that this is actually a very profound point, which I don't want to gloss over, is that the whole idea is that you're trying to encode your ambition in something that is reduced to a single number that can be measured and optimized.
Yep.
And so you have to kind of go through the ugly work of doing the weightings and the trade-offs now, rather than giving people multiple targets to shoot for.
You got to stop there. The moment you said weighting and trade-offs, I've got to push back a little bit. Okay. I thought you were going to say you have to go through the ugly work of clearly defining your scale of measure. That you do have to do. Otherwise, you don't have a clear idea. Now, if I can skip to the idea of weighting and trade-offs. If you think about it, this is one of my favorite subjects, and I've written several papers on weightings and things like trade-offs, okay? But let me give you the bottom line here. The moment you say weighting and trade-offs, using an engineering term here, you're talking about the design, the strategies and the architecture, and the trade-offs to choose architectures that are necessary to reach a goal. And right now, we're not quite finished with even stating the goal, so it's too early to do any engineering design trade-offs and weightings. Let me put it another way. That word weighting, I dislike it very much. And again, I've written several papers on why I dislike it. But I prefer the term dynamic prioritization. And let's say it's the decision about whether to trade off and do this or that, I believe should be a dynamic decision as you go along and, engineering and delivering the system, okay? Not an upfront weight as in balanced scorecard or quality function deployment. I think those are atrociously stupid methods. And I've written papers to argue the case in detail, okay? So let's not go there with weighting and trade-off. I'm saying that's after we've done a really good definition of the objective, then we can begin the architecture process, and then we begin prioritizing and trade-offs. And I've written in detail about
so I can see all of that. I might get my dog to shut up here. I have a different point I was going to ask. Frolic. The question is like, so you would have like 17 sustainability goals. If you rewrite, would those all, would you actually only have a single ambition, or is it okay to have 17 different goals with 17 different ambitions?
I would not have 17 different ambitions. The ambition is fairly high level to begin with. I get into detail down here with the different goals. Okay, that's where I distinguish the different classes of, for example, entire groups, and the different classes finally of decision makers, right? Let me just hit, we didn't do decision maker, and I'm just going to put a a judge, okay? And so when we finally define the classes of decision makers, one of them might be a judge, and I can have another one, decision maker equals family vote, totally different decision maker, okay? So I can in my goals for different levels of performance at different times. So this is the how much, this is the when, and these are who decisions. I can specify any interesting set that makes any sense to me, but I don't have to rewrite my ambition level. You know, I've got decision makers there. I'm fine. Okay. I don't have to change my scale. It's got a decision maker will end up being, like this. Okay. So this is a generic or high level. It's very common. Everything seems to operate at this level to begin with. The problem is that decision makers is very ambiguous, many possible interpretations. So we grab it, we decide decision makers, is any set of things that we're interested in, okay? Judge, family vote, comma, ... right? And so we've defined the set of things that we think are critical and important and useful, and we can extend that set and modify that set. And we can even define what we mean by a judge or a family vote. So if we think that's ambiguous, is it a high court judge or it's just an amateur arbitration judge? Okay. But we can have as many points on the scale for different levels of achievement at different times for different sets of scale qualifiers. Here's a set of scale qualifiers. So we could have 100 different ones if we wanted to, no problem. In practice, people rarely go beyond 5 or 10 at the most. I can tell you that. They've just, they've done all the essential stuff and they're not worried about the small stuff. But you could if you wanted to. Now, do you see where I'm going with this? Does that goal example tell you that the goal is a point on the scale, a numeric point, and this is a point in time of some kind, and this is a dimension called groups, and this is another dimension called decision makers. So I can have 10 different such dimensions. This is really very advanced multidimensional thinking. And it is necessary to pin down the critical things that we have to think about separately. I can tell you one consequence of this. When you've done this, you can ask for example, we say entire group, what is the most critical one of all to deal with early? That's a prioritization question, right? And if somebody says the family, I said, fine, I'll put that down there. I have both decomposed my problem to only look at the family, and I have prioritized family because I said that's the most critical thing to look at. So you're now looking at my style of prioritization. I've written a lot about prioritization, and I can point you to things to read in books I've already sent you. It says prioritization for a whole chapter in some of the books, right? Like the Simplan book I've just been writing now. Okay, so these are devices that help in prioritization, and they help in decomposition, and they help in definition and articulation and clarity. So this little device does a heck of a lot of good things all at once. Including allowing us to trade off.
Okay,
by the way,
we're close to our hour, so.
Yeah, okay, well, good thing I skipped ahead before we got all but we have this, and it's obvious we can work on this to fulfill it. And then we can work on all kinds of interesting plans for the future using this.
Right.
But you
So,
got
yeah.
yourself a demo within the hour. Not bad.
Yeah, no, I think it's really helpful. I think there's, I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around the way I think about this. This isn't really about operationalizing a vision statement. Like, it's not
Yes.
bad to have a vision statement built around words that have emotional resonance for you. But I think
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you say is that should be the starting point, not the end point.
Yeah. Now, your
Yeah.
term operationalizing, I like and agree. That's what we're doing. We're making it operational. That is, we can use it in practice. And, vision statements can rarely be used in practice, except for the purpose of deriving operational definitions.
Right. So I think that would be a fun exercise, is this is very inspiring. I would
Good.
like to give myself a homework assignment to try and go through this exercise and create a straw man for our little tiny Datocracy community. And I'm not sure what that means yet, but at least to come up with like a document. So can you send us this document in an email or something?
Sorry, can I send you what in
Your
email?
note, this note.
No problem. Yeah, by the way, let me tell you something. In my Datocracy book, which you have,
Mhm.
I give many examples of this for Datocracy. Skim through the book and look at the examples. They're already in this format. So we have two things. We have the already written stuff, and then for Datocracy, and then you say, well, yeah, but we have some other objectives that you're not in your book, Tom. We want to work on them. That's fine. No problem. And we have a working process, so we can pass it back and forth by email and have occasional more public meetings where we discuss it with other people.
If you could put it in a Google Doc, that would be.
Are you not
Okay,
comfortable editing Google Docs, Tom?
I'm even more comfortable with something even simpler called Notes.
The
I have
reason
been
that
known
we like
to use
Google Docs
Google
is that
Docs.
we all have a copy at the same time.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can. Everybody can edit, even at the same time. So
Yeah,
there's just one copy.
we can talk about it. I just had to get going, and
Okay,
frankly,
so let me put it this way.
I'm not in love with Google Docs.
So I'm great that you guys have this. This is the world I live in, is that if it's on somebody's desk, then everyone else is out of date. And so at least for the documents that Ernest and I work on, we put it in Google Docs, so it's always in a central place where either of us can edit it.
Yeah, I know the argument. I can probably be talked into it.
Okay.
And I am doing that with some of my people. I just do not love it.
Okay, so you're not comfortable with it, but you might be able to tolerate it. But anyway, you can send us this document and we can work on it in Google Docs. And then you can, when it's time for you to edit it.
And maybe when we get back, we'll continue working. I am doing, I can do it. If it's important for you guys, I will do it, however painful it is for me.
We can always do the thing where we're editing and typing and you're just commenting too. Right?
Yeah. It's on its way.
Once you send me this document, I will try to get us a draft to play with for next week. And then maybe we'll do this again on Zoom next Friday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. By the way, let me mention one thing as we leave. There is maybe something we do at a more advanced stage, but let me just tell you something. I prefer to Google Docs by far. And you're probably not looking at it. Let's see. Yeah.
You're sharing your app, not your whole screen, so we can't see.
Yeah, that's right. So do I have to go and
you have to stop sharing and reshare?
Pardon?
You probably have to stop sharing and reshare your desktop.
Yeah, I know I have to. So if you give me a moment, I will do that. Upcoming meeting. I can't back to meeting. Okay, sounds like a good idea. Or Zoom. Stop share. Right. Share screen. And where to go? There it is. Great. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so let me introduce to you valplan.net, an app to do these things. Okay, and let me show you. We're actually working on a Holy Land peace process, no less. And here is constructive cooperation amongst different religions and things like that. So here's a scale of measure, percentage of religion, nationalities, and ethnicities, that's the others as critical assets, etc. And here is a breakdown of the scale and its definitions, which are now live links, it turns out, in glossaries, okay? And here is, for example, a wish level. So long story short, any serious work which you intend to pursue more than just a 1 hour game, I would strongly recommend we use the Valplan app, which we can do for free. My son owns the rights to it, Kai, and it helps you do language, okay? But if we just wanted to do something like we did today, we don't get into it because then you have the overhead of learning the tool a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think that might be a good
then
next step, is that doing one more free form where we just try to wrap our heads around what we're
Sure.
doing. And then,
Yes, well, I'm quite happy keeping it simple, blank space, free form, Google
and
Word.
I
But
assume the tool is,
let's say we wanted to do 10 of these and do the strategies. I promise you, it'll be much easier in Valplan, the app.
right, and is that, I assume there's a pricing plan and different tiers and
Let's
things
just
like that.
say, for our purposes, it is free until further notice, and anybody can sign up for a free account for a while.
Okay, and is there a way to publish these things from there directly? So that
Yeah. Yes,
people who
there
are
is.
not members can see the result.
There are.
Okay,
We can export to Word and spreadsheets and take screenshots.
right, yeah, okay, because the thing, like, the one advantage of Google Docs is that then I can, you know, click publish to web and I get a public link that immediately anyone else can see without having to have a license or an account.
Right. No, we want to go there.
Okay, not
But
there yet. All right.
in most of my recent books, you'll find that I have taken screenshots and I publish screenshots, and you'll find that all over my books, like the Simplan book and the Datocracy book, all over the place. You'll recognize it now. So that's the simple way I publish examples, is actually just take screenshots.
Yeah,
But
I mean, that's a big difference between a machine readable, editable copy than
Sure.
a
So we have, as I said, machine readable. We have in terms of as I said, spreadsheets and Word.
Yeah, okay, yeah, there's so I think the last thing, Ernest, I'm curious, just as kind of a final word on this idea of intelligibility. This is where we started this idea of smart documents, and this idea of embedding the precise definitions of things. Is this getting closer to your vision of this idea of an intelligible document? Is this a significant step towards your vision of a sort of consumer-friendly context?
At least for the language, that's the kind of workflow that I talk about, because the writer, Tom, was, you know, at least in that tool of Valplan, you write your statements and you can create define things as you go on, as you write, right? And then the reader, I haven't put myself in the place of reader, but at least the reader will be able to work with that, with those definitions. Not, you know, the reader can, at least I don't see a way for the reader to customize what the reader sees, but at least for the writer, as the writer goes along, the writer defines terms and defines sets of things. So yeah, it's more powerful than a Word document, for example.
You'll find it is the most advanced planning tool you have ever seen. But you can decide that when you've seen it.
Okay.
This is the thing for me, is that, you know, in Ernest's vision of people creating context, I think these idea of the Planguage schemas, is because it's a disciplined process that gets us further down this road to actually creating something concrete. And so this is the first time I've seen something that actually I think implements even a small piece of Ernest's vision of kind of forcing people to be more precise and embedding their context and assumptions. So this is very exciting. This actually feels like we're making progress towards the deeper goals.
Right. Now, by the way, Ernest, I've had a chance to start reading some of your materials, so we are nicely synchronized. I love your idealism, agree with every little detail. So let's just work together and move it towards as a reality as we can get within our lifetime.
Well, within our lifetime, even my lifetime, I don't see that happening. But like Ernie has taught me, it's like we should plant the seed so that future generations can take it over and adapt
That's
it
right.
to their.
I saw you had that long-term vision, and I appreciate it. I share it. But somebody has to start, and I know you feel exactly that way, and that's us. And we'll do what we can and hope for the best.
So let me tell you what my ambition is that I want to use as the starting point for next week's discussion.
Right.
And that is creating a public community that explicitly models, documents, and iterates on datocratic values.
Okay.
And like, can the three of us agree, like, these are the values we want to start measuring our decisions against and start doing that in a way that
we can work on that together, and I will be very happy to be your guide and coach and put in my own ideas too.
All right.
All right.
I will try and get a straw man based on that, and we will edit that next week. Thank you very much. Did you want to actually go ahead and send us invite to the Planguage app so we can start playing with it? Is that a thing? Did we lose you?
Maybe he's gone.
He's still on, logged on, but maybe his audio or video cut off.
Yeah.
All right, we will call it a day. Thank you very much, Ernest. Great work, everybody. I will upload this to the Transforming Human Systems website or YouTube channel, and we will go from there.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, Tom, we lost your audio. You're muted somehow.
Here.
Still muted. Oh, there you are.
Okay. Well, the last thing I said was, I'm on your team. I would love to help forward the vision, and we can plan this community if you like. No problem.
Yeah. And do you want to go ahead and send me a link? Is there a way you can send me an invite to the ValPlan app?
I will do it for both of you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we're done. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.